and we're going to talk right now really about Web3. We're here this whole week about Web3, and I'm going to hand it to Jay as well, just to talk about what Prasaga is doing with educating the future generation in Web3.
Good morning. Anybody who wants to come on over and sit down, we're talking about something that we're all about, and that's the future. And I think one of the things that we miss sometimes when we're working in blockchain is understanding that this is generational. This isn't just what we're going to do today, it's what we're going to do for the future. And we're working on a next layer 1 blockchain. It's a new evolution in technology that allows for scaling. Our definition is if you hit the internet capacity, bandwidth of the internet, then we've hit full scale. We will always go faster as you add more nodes to the network. The key, though, is to inspire this next generation, the generation now, that's already living Web3, that's already living inside of video games or inside the Metaverse, and understands that the real potential is for technology to make a future we're all inspired to live in. And I think that's something that as I look at what's going on in Play to Learn and how we can use NFTs and the Metaverse and Web3 to really make a unique space. It's about learning. It's about how we capture the imaginations of this next generation and allow them to do technology transfer like we've talked about and not be able to realize. And if you look at the potential of blockchain, it's not going to be reached for at least a decade, maybe 2. And that's where we need this next generation to not have all of the beliefs and constraints about economy and monetary policy and a lot of things that we've taken for granted in this next generation. To create a sustainable environment where, and I know the kids are actually more about it than we are in a lot of ways, to make sure that this planet's around for them to enjoy beyond us. And if we can take the economic impact of everything we do in production and supply chain and industry and put it so that there's accountability and provenance that shows whether or not you're truly carbon neutral, whether or not you're truly making a difference, and have that immutable on the blockchain, brands won't be able to just come out and say, oh yeah, we have greenwashed ourselves and we're good enough now. They're going to have to be accountable to what is the truth. And I think that's one of the things that the kids today can be inspired to apply blockchain in their lives to understand exactly the impact that we all have on the planet and how to make a difference.
Thank you, Jay. And so this is actually Prasaga here. So we have Einstein in the picture, and we're going to go over that later. Soufia just arrived, and we're sharing 2 mics, so I'll let you introduce yourself, Soufia.
Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Soufia. Can everyone hear me? My name is Soufia Trabelsi. I'm the Web3 Gaming Lead at Polygon Studios. Thank you so much, Josh, for having me here. And I'm so excited to talk about education in the Web3 space, especially for kids. And looking forward to the questions. I'm going to talk in the right next time.
Perfect. So just to give you a little background, what we see here before the Deepak Foundation was talking, this is basically educating the kids in Roblox about mindfulness and 5 different yoga poses. There's actually 8, but you can actually see whether you're doing the splits or various things. So being able to see and educate kids for the next generation, especially for COVID, mindfulness and mental health is a big thing. So we see an opportunity not just to teach sustainability and DeFi and Web3, but a myriad of different things. So this is actually the brainchild of Lian, Pham there, and her 2 kids that love Roblox. And so we would love to discuss, Lian, from your perspective, how did this all come about, and how do we push forward to the future? And understanding, for example, Web3, how do we teach the next generation this in Roblox?
Thank you very much. I'm Lian Pham. I'm a single mother of 2 daughters, 9 and 4-year-old. They are clearly a part of the 50 million users daily are the statistics in Roblox. And as a single mom, the entrepreneur, clearly I'm always working. They're always on the iPad. So how do we embrace it and how do we make it more productive? I'm very passionate about technology, very passionate about students. secure solving problems. If you help me, I hope you can help others.
Perfect. So ultimately, I would love to hear from you guys as well, the audience. For you guys to understand for the next generation, are you guys seeing the need to integrate children's education for the next generation into what you guys are building? Or anyone focused on kids at all? For any of the audience? So any of the audience focused on children at all? One? Okay, so that's good. So ultimately, for you, the panel, discussing the next generation, what is Polygon, for example, doing to educate? We don't have to talk about specifics, but what do you think as a more of a general view, what do you think in terms of education?
I think right now education is so crucial in the space just because there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of people need to also get acquainted with the idea of how to use wallets, how to set up a wallet, how to navigate through all the different marketplaces, the actual technology behind the blockchain. So, I mean, I really appreciate all the content creators as well that go out of their way to educate people as well through YouTube, TikTok, Instagram Reels, whatever it is, just to get people to kind of understand how this tool works because it is very powerful. So what we're doing right now is more focused on the developers to learn, all the different stuff that we offer at Polygon, and also the kind of developers in their garage model. We support them through grants, access to our ecosystem to make sure that when they're building projects that we're able to kind of provide them the tools to go above and beyond that might be out of their reach. So we do a lot to facilitate that for them. But yeah, I think moving forward, right, educating these kids about Web3 so that once they get to age that, it'll be a lot easier for them to know how to use a wallet. And hopefully by then your password won't be lost forever. So I do think it needs to be a little bit more merciful. And the other important thing is to bring down the technical barriers, right? I think that's the biggest impediment at the moment, just because everything seems a little bit more complicated. So the example I like to give to the projects is facilitate your tools. Think about your next door neighbor. Will he be using MetaMask? Probably not. So how do you navigate around that?
Perfect, thank you so much. So Jay, what you guys are doing as another layer when understanding assets and digital assets in a way that is meaningful, what does that utility look like for the next generation? You're coming from the gaming background as well, and gamifying life as we see this digital aspect of things, right? Commodities, understanding real life in a different way. What do you think is a way that we can teach the next generation to make it more applicable to them and understanding what actually matters to them? And Lian, maybe you can talk about what actually matters following up to that.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest challenges in blockchain is to make it understandable to the 8-year-old or the 12-year-old. And if we can do that, if we can get our communication at a level where we can have that kind of a conversation, then we can actually get it to the general populace that maybe doesn't have a PhD in blockchain. It is challenging because I've been working on that problem for about 5 years. And sometimes without getting a little bit into the technology, it's a little hard to make the connection as to how it will make a better future. Whether it's an immutable provenance that shows the history of something, or it's just the fact that we're going to be able to disintermediate humans out of certain marketplaces. Anyway, I think that what we look at for Web3 is a way for the entire ecosystem that's building on and around our project to be able to communicate what they're doing. And I think the first group of individuals that I want to make sure we're communicating with is that next generation, so that we can see what they can build. And one of the projects I had the privilege to work on many years ago taught kids how to do critical thinking and creative problem solving using a Rube Goldberg physics puzzle. And that actually, when I saw the lights go on and kids actually come alive, doing something on computer that there was no way to do on the chalkboard in the classroom, that's the kind of thing that I think you guys are tapping into. That inspiration. We learn because we were inspired to. If we're learning because we have to, we can go look it up on Google. If we're learning because we want to, that's when people will start to do the discovery. And we want to make sure that our content is at a place where it can be discovered by that next generation.
And Lian, talk about the utility of it in MetaHug, the DAO, the kids make the decisions. Soufia, we were talking about the utility, connecting to real world brands and making it meaningful. So you have a hug that actually means something. It's actually a social token. Being able to connect to the DAO and the kids actually paying it forward, giving that hug means something. If you want to redeem it for Nike Air Jordans collectively, if the kid has cancer, 100 other kids collectively buy it together. I think that's the power of collective, and then making these playable NFTs across game engines to understand those walls. I think that's the future of Epic and Roblox, understanding what is becoming real. So talk about the DAO for a second, Lian, the MetaHug DAO, how that connects the centralized, decentralized side of everything.
Yeah, so the MetaHub DAO is run by the kids at Polygon. Their responsibility is pretty much giving feedback to the brands, to help create the games themselves. They get to send proposals on what they want to learn and suggest brands what type of games is best fit for them. I think it's really important for the kids themselves to be curious and create. That's how they learn, and to be invested into the game. So after you create a game, they're more invested in the values of the brands that's underwriting the game. In the game itself, you can earn tokens, and those converts to social tokens.
Right. So like in this, you would do the yoga poses here, and you would get different tokens from this. So inside, when you're on the yoga mat, you would actually get to put tokens, and you get to earn them.
There's a leaderboard, and you can see all the players in there. You can see how many tokens they're collecting over time in our world, and I think that's really important. Another thing that we're doing is after they finish the course, they get an NFT based on the course completion, and that actually drives utility back to the brand as a reward system.
Right. Everyone here on the stage, as we collaborate with Prasaga, understanding the future of what your background in gaming as well. Talk about that and how it relates to DAO and decentralization and really helping the greater good.
Well, I would have to say that decentralized thinking has taken the most unlearning I've ever done in my life. Because everything we do is pretty much driven on a centralized model, whether it's just running a profit and loss, or if it's building something that has to do with us owning the technology versus somebody else. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges we have right now is for a next generation to come up and to understand that mutual interest is more important than just self-interest. That being able to build something that's going to make a difference in the planet is more important than just making something that will make a difference in my life alone. And obviously, having the right underpinnings for that, the right understandings, it requires people to be aware. I mean, one of the biggest challenges I see with DAO right now is that people don't understand what they're voting on, or they're being influenced by people who are putting out propaganda to get them persuaded to do something that may or may not be in their best self-interest or best mutual interest for everyone. And I think that's where this next generation needs to be able to own their own autonomy and understand that their voice matters and that they can make an impact in a DAO-based economy. And that's something where, right now, I think we're kind of all a little disenfranchised, feeling like how do we make a difference in the political worlds that we live in? Well, we have to build a new world with new political models, new governance that's driven by the DAO. I mean, I think we just went to a conference about the Magna Carta. It goes way back. Those ideas are not brand new, but they do need to be experienced and lived and brought to this next generation in a way where they can participate and they can make that difference in their lives. And I think that's going to make something that again, it's generational, that will start to move us forward in terms of how we make decisions together.
And Lian, talk a little bit about MetaHug and onboarding the kids. If a kid is out there watching right now, as he sees this recorded later, how does a child age 5 to 21 join MetaHug.org and then DAO? What does that look like, onboarding and connecting to brands that also want to connect and tap into these resources that we have?
Yeah, so right now, if any kid wants to join the DAO, basically they just go on Roblox, look for a MetaHug group, and just join the group. It's free, it's easy. They start socializing with all the other kids in the DAO. Once they start contributing, we have working groups where they can either contribute as a designer, a clothing designer for Roblox, in VR world, or help script, and even make mini movies. There are a bunch of different ways they can contribute, but that's how they move their way up with social tokens in our DAO.
We're going to have a back-to-school program, t-shirt competition. Hopefully all of you can be involved. We definitely want to support the kids in any way and give utility to incentivize them, because it is learn to play, earn, and they have to earn something to understand that incentive mechanism. So going beyond, we definitely want to see how we can all collaborate together. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for having us, and sorry for the technical difficulties. But if you do want to see MetaHug, metahug.org and playtolearn.com. Thank you so much, Soufia, Jay, Lian. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.